And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Keeg, where we talk about this week's new comic book releases, whether they're DC, Marvel, or indie comics. They all come out every Wednesday, and we're here on a Thursday, February 13th, 2025, to talk about all the books that we could read this week in 24 hours before showtime. That's kind of the gist and premise of the show. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. But wherever you are, whether you're watching us live or listening to the podcast after the fact, wherever you get your podcast from, thank you for watching and or listening to us. Let us know you're out there. You know, say hi in the chat, like, follow, subscribe. Write a review, do your thing. Let us know you're out there. Let us know you're out there listening. Because, you know, we do the show and want to know. Let me introduce the guests. First, he had a major sabbatical. I don't know where he was, but he was somewhere. We got Brian Long, a.k.a. Captain Comic Rex.
It was a major sabbatical? I would have called it a minor sabbatical. I feel like it was only a couple months.
Has it? When was the last episode you were on?
Probably, it was definitely in 2024.
Okay, so that narrows it down. Yeah.
Maybe it was like October.
Okay.
That's a long time.
Maybe.
All right.
That's pretty,
I mean,
pretty long.
the problem is you do this the same night as my weekly D&D game that I've been playing for 5 years now.
So
it's hard to get the time off, you know.
So. Yeah, okay, you've been doing D&D for 5 years. That's longer than this. But you know what that means?
What?
That means put that old dog out to pasture and go with this young pup of a show that's been around for, I think, 4 years?
Yeah, I was going to say, these two things entered my life pretty close to one another. I don't think there's a dramatic difference here. I haven't hit a 7-year itch with either one of them yet.
March 2021. I think was the first episode of Comic Talk. And like,
sure, that sounds right.
You know, we have different people on the show. Some people have been around since the beginning, some people not, but like it's been going pretty much every week since then. All I know is there's a lot of cool people that do D&D on Thursdays, and
the night to do it, I guess.
Apparently.
I guess so. What are you going to do, you know? But I'm glad to have you back for this one.
I'm glad to be back. I'm excited to talk about these books. There's some good stuff that came out this week.
There is. There was a lot of books that came out this week, but
yeah,
we'll crunch the numbers in a little bit. We also got Manny Hondres, aka Manny Reads Comics. Manny, you're a series regular.
Yeah, it's only been a month or so, maybe less than a month since I last was on here.
Yeah, I mean you're here like one show a month, which is, I mean, most of the people, the rotation is once a month.
I have my priorities straight, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I appreciate that. I'm glad to have you back. Either way, both of you guys, welcome back to the show. You know, a lot of books came out this week. For anyone out there who doesn't know where to find their comics, go to comicshoplocator.com. Find a comic shop near you. Any of the books that we talk about today, you can find at your local comic shop. So support your local comic shop. I was crunching the numbers as I do because I do those videos. I think it was 8 new DC comics, 18 new Marvel comics, and then a bunch of indies. I think that was like the rough crunch, which is a pretty heavy week for Marvel. It's an okay week for DC. It's not bad. There was a week a couple weeks ago, DC had 4 new comics.
Yeah,
when you're saying,
go ahead.
What?
When you're saying new, are you talking about new number ones, or just like it was a new release today?
A new release, like just a book that week, you know?
Gotcha.
A new comic book day release. But that was because we had a 5 Wednesday month in January. So one of those was a 4 series from DC Comics. You know, It is what it is. But I forget what we were talking about, but a lot of books came out this week, and we read a bunch. And could this be the show record for however many books we read altogether? I don't know. It seems close, because I was looking at it and I was like, oh, I haven't prepped this many images in a long time. Let's just get started with our list because I know there's gonna be a lot to talk about. Who wants to go first with their reading list?
Let's go alphabetical. Brian all day.
Oh, I guess that's me. Hi, everyone. All right, so my reading list is from Image Comics: Death of Copra, #2; Bug Wars, #1; One World Under Doom, #1; Immortal Thor, #20; The Moon is Following Us, #6; Transformers: The More That Meets the Eye, #17; and Deadpool, #11; and Absolute Batman, is it #5? #5.
Yeah.
That's
it?
my list. What do you mean that's it?
I'm just joking. That's a lot. It's a lot.
You know what's funny? You were saying like, oh, a lot of books came out this week, and then I was looking at my like upcoming pull list, and in like 3 weeks, I have I think 15 books that I'm getting one day, and I'm like, this is not a lot compared to that day.
I mean, true, but you know, what I found funny is it's been a long time since you've been back on the show, and I was looking through your reading list, and I'm like I'm trying to make sense of why you chose these books, and I just see a lot of Kirby. I see a lot of Jack Kirby.
Oh yeah, Dimitri, are you shocked by this?
No.
You know me. You know what I'm about, and one of those things is Jack Kirby.
and you read like when I saw the cover, we'll talk about Death of Copra. I don't know anything about it, and it looked like this completely independent like zine. It looks like somebody passed it out on the street corner, not at a comic shop.
That's kind of how this book started.
Okay.
But we can get into that.
We'll get into that. All right, Manny, what are your books that you read this week?
Let's see. From DC, I have Absolute Batman #5, Batman and Robin 18, and that's it. Marvel, it's All New Venom #3, Amazing Spider-Man 67, Magic #2, Marvel. No, not that one. Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu #5, New Champions #2, and X-Men what is that? 11? Yeah.
11.
And I completely forgot that the Doom one was coming out this week, so I did not read that, but it is on my list. Just I didn't read it. And then finally for Image, I think I only had Transformers, and that's it. 9 books.
All right. For me, I read One World Under Doom #1. I read Deadpool 11. I read Absolute Batman 5. I read All New Venom 3. Amazing Spider-Man 67. Marvel Mutts, either #1 or it's a one-shot probably. New Champions #2. X-Men 11. Action Comics 1083. Batman Dark Patterns 3. Psylocke 4. Deadpool Wolverine 2. Green Lantern Corps 1. Spider-Boy 16. Samuels and Captain America 2. DC vs. Vampires Darkness and Light 1. And Jupiter's Legacy Finale 4.
That is a lot of books.
I just realized.
Did you actually read all of that?
I did. Have you seen that picture of that guy on the subway that's like reading multiple books at once? That was me, just holding it there, reading. That's how you maximize your time, is you read multiple comics in your hands at once. I got a head start, not a head start, but like a head start, like more than normal yesterday. So then I was like, all right, I got some time, and then. Sometimes I'll come, because I host trivia on Wednesday nights. Most of the time, I'm like completely tired when I come back from trivia. So I come back and I just like fall asleep on the couch. Yesterday, I fell asleep on the couch early enough that I woke up with enough time before I went back to sleep to read more comics and then go back to sleep. So
wow, that sounds lovely.
And there were still a couple of comics that I didn't get to, you know. Keep in mind, I'm not married. I don't have kids. You know, I'm just a man child for now.
So that's another. Yeah, no excuses, Dimitri. That's one of the reasons too I haven't been able to be on the show is because like I just don't really have the time to read everything in 24 hours, and to earlier in the week, And during my prep today, I read a lot of books, and I also stayed up late last night reading some books. So I'm a little tired. I have a little bit of a headache, but I'm doing okay, and I'm excited to talk comics.
I'm glad you were able to sacrifice your
Yeah,
well-being and health for this show. Um,
anything for comic books.
you are setting a bad example to anyone out there who's looking to get into comics. That's like, I'm looking for something like
Oh,
chill and whatever, and you're like, yeah, it halfway killed me last night.
Well, it's really just trying to do this show. Most days, I like to kind of do like two a day between one Wednesday and the next. That's kind of my usual like reading pace that I get, and that's a nice little like end of the day. All right, I'm gonna read two little comic books, and then I'll go to bed.
I mean, yeah, I feel like for this show, we do have to like binge as much as we can.
You must be losing your mind. You actually are probably reading five books at once in your hand. I don't know how you
you
do
have to
it in
do
a
it
way
every
that
week.
makes yeah,
Yeah.
It's the
yeah.
every week thing that's the problem. Yeah, and then I get disappointed in myself. I'm like, Dimitri, you stupid piece of shit. You didn't read enough comics
Yeah.
for your own damn show. I'm like,
That's why you
Um,
have other people here to read. They can talk.
yeah, exactly. That's why you have co-hosts.
yeah, that's true. That's
Yes.
true. Um, so all in all, we all read a lot of comics. It also helps that there were just a lot of good comics out this week to
Mhm.
choose from. Um,
Mhm.
the real question is, and I ask you guys, for anyone who wants to know how the sausage is made, I ask you guys beforehand, before we even read the comics, what your guys are like tentative pick of the week is, and that's what I use for those images because I got to get a head start on those. But sometimes that changes when it comes to Showtime, and your pick of the week might not be your tentative pick of the week might not be your actual pick of the week by Showtime. So either way, what'd you guys pick for your pick of the week?
I went with Moon Knight, and it usually is at least top three, and then this time it came up to number five out of the
Oof.
9 books that I read. So yeah, definitely, like you're saying, it's I completely uh, guessed it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm nodding like I read it, and I'm like, yeah, but no, I didn't
Oh
read it.
man.
What would be your pick of the week, and then we'll cycle back to Moon Knight and how it disappointed.
So my actual book of the week was Batman and Robin number 18.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay, that was the
which
one
I didn't.
I skipped it this week. I was
Yeah, I mean
gonna
it's just
hop back
Batman and
on.
Robin. I didn't expect it to be. I was like, oh, it's probably gonna be good. It's not bad. It's Philip Kennedy Johnson. He's the writer, so he's not a bad writer at all.
Yeah,
But this one, there was a lot of, believe it or not, Damian had a lot of angst, some teenage angst in there.
yeah, as he
I
does.
know you don't see that coming, right? Uh, but no, we also had Red Hood was in there, some good talks, and he revealed something that like all the Robins and Batgirls have in common, which is their what they call the Harvey Night, and the Harvey Night is basically the one night in any Robin or sidekick's patrol that something happens that jars them, and like it either sticks with them for life or just it's like traumatizing enough to make an impact. And so the way that Damian's been acting in these last couple of issues, if you haven't been reading Batman and Robin, what happened was that he went into action when some people started attacking a ball that he was attending, and he did everything right. He did everything he could, but in the end, there was a little girl who got hurt, and he couldn't save her, and that hit him. So like he went to go visit her in the hospital to see if she was okay. She was fine. She's gonna recover and just fine. Like she didn't die or anything, but it still hit him, and like he at this point in the story, he's trying to decide, does he even want to continue being Robin? Does he want to be a hero, or does he want to follow maybe in his um,
Grandfather.
paternal
Yeah.
grandfather's footsteps, not his mom side, but his Bruce's side, and he wants to know if he wants to become a doctor or whatever. And
Hmm.
so that's what Jason was telling Batman. He's like, you probably missed it. You don't even know about this, but like we each have our nights, and so if that's the case, maybe you should talk to him. And Batman's just immediately this is what like kind of brought it down for me. It was like the Batman was immediately like, nope, he can't quit. Even if he wants to quit, he can't quit. And unfortunately, Damien was listening when they were having that conversation. So, did you guys read this book?
I've read every issue up until this point. I missed out on this issue.
I'm behind on that book. I've read the first like arc or two and liked what I was reading of it, but this sounds really interesting. I'm gonna have to catch up.
It's good. It's definitely a different path than that first arc. So, but like all in all, the conversations that everyone had and like just the pacing throughout the issue, it was good, and it came out to if whoever's been a loyal listener and has seen me here, they know that I have like a little grading system for my comics, and this one came out to be 13 out of 15. So not bad, not bad at all.
So much of Damien's arc has been like him so assured that he wants to take up the mantle of Batman
Right,
that him
right.
having doubts about that sounds like a very compelling direction to take the character. So I'm definitely excited to check that out. That sounds good.
I was happy to see that because I'm tired of hearing him become the like what is it, the 666 Batman or
Yeah,
something. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to see that. I
Yeah.
want to see him do his own thing. So him
yeah,
becoming a civilian, that'd be pretty cool. At least for
yeah.
I don't know, 2 years or something before he's like, I'm forced to come back. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Well, and I like the idea too of him taking inspiration from, like you said, from Thomas Wayne and wanting to
Yeah.
become a doctor. That's a nice touch. That's really good. I like that. Damien is a character who I've really like loved all of the newer stuff that they've been doing with him from that solo series they did a few years ago to like this book. I think they're doing some really great stuff with that character, and he's always been a favorite of mine since the Morrison days. But I've really liked the new directions they're taking him to.
My
I
only
oh sorry.
I was just gonna say my only complaint is that again, every time that he wants to do his own thing, there has to be a fight between him and Bruce instead of just like can y'all
Yeah,
talk? Like can you have a conversation maybe? That's it.
Yeah, I mean, the way they treat Damien tends to be very cyclical, and I'm just like, stop making
Yeah.
him this like arrogant brat over and over again. Have him then he learns humility, and then later a new writer will pop on, they'll put him back to this like
Right.
arrogant brat, and like I
that's the classic superhero comic problem in
Yeah.
I
general.
I think so. I also think that like it's about time that comics and some of them have done this, right? They can age their characters up just a little bit to
Mhm.
have them learn lessons, right? So you can learn a lesson, and any lesson learned in real life with human beings or with these characters, any lesson learned changes your personality, right? You don't like hopefully make the same mistake twice. It changes you. It changes the way you like view the world. If it's a big enough lesson, it changes you completely. But the problem with comics is like they're so cyclical that like they can't really change the character that much. Like, but I think comics need to kind of understand that like we want to last forever, but understand that like comics aren't going to last forever. So if we take this idea that like Damien gets older every 5 years, he gains a year, like that's not that fast, you
Yeah.
know.
I don't know, man. This has been going on. Well, when did Action Comics come out? Was it the 30s or something?
uh
If that's the case,
Superman was
they
38.
should all be yeah, they should all be like in their 50s,
No,
60s by
don't
now. If
don't
they,
don't
no,
age
I'm
in
just
real
saying.
time. Not in real time, but like yes,
No,
if
no,
50
I'm saying
years
every five
passes,
years.
if 50
Every
years
five
passes, that's
years.
10 years.
I think an interesting
That,
thing DC's been doing though is that they're kind of like being very subtle about the aging.
Yeah.
Where like if you're really looking at it, you're like, okay, like Batman feels like he's more in his 40s now than he ever has in my time
finally,
reading.
yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
in my time reading Batman, like I feel like in both the Ron V and the Chip Zdarsky runs, they were both kind of alluding this idea of him like being a little creakier than he's used to being and being a little like more run down than he has been in the
And
past.
then he survives a fall from space with
Wow,
no
I mean,
issues.
that's middle age, that's experience,
Right.
that's what
Of
comes with
course.
Right.
it.
Here's the thing though is that like wait, who's writing Detective Comics right now?
Tom Taylor.
Tom
Okay.
Taylor just took it
So
over,
right
yeah.
now there's a storyline going there where there's a special like treatment that's making people essentially live longer by like making them
Yeah.
healthier, right? And so something that's happened with Chip Zdarsky's run that I thought they were finally getting into it is that Batman is feeling old and he's
Yeah.
paranoid and insecure about his age in a way, right? He can still end up pulling off most of his stuff, but like he hates the fact that he even gets injured at all, right? And so
Right.
I like this idea that like Batman can still be Batman, but like have him hurt a little bit, you know?
Right.
But I like this idea that he is essentially having a midlife crisis. And I think that DC could lean into that for the next 10 years. Do that. Lean into the idea that this guy who is he is the Olympian of Olympians, realizing that like he has to fight for that gold medal. He probably will still get that gold medal, but like he has to fight for it now.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Dick Grayson's catching up. You better watch out for him. Like,
Right.
Well, and I thought I just had Dimitri, you saying that is like I think people can more easily accept a Batman who's older because in pretty much every form of media, Batman is a little on the older side.
Yeah.
Versus say like a Spider-Man where so much Spider-Man media is like this time he's back to high school, and a lot of people get introduced to Spider-Man as a teenager. So the idea of him being older is, I think, stranger to a lot of normies who don't read comics on a regular basis versus say Batman, where it's like, no, Batman's always the adult in the room. And so him being a little older is, I think, easier for people to accept in that way.
I could go on a tangent about Spider-Man, which I will when
brother,
we will,
don't get me started either.
I'll hit you up for our episode on our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Friendly neighborhood.
I would love to chat about it. I'm quite liking that show, but I would love to chat about it
too. But I have thoughts about that. But let's not derail. Point being is, I do like what DC's doing with Batman right now because in like all the different things. I hope they don't revert and go back to perfect youth Batman. You know. Anyway, that's just what it is. All right.
Speaking of absolute Batman.
We'll get to it. Brian, what's your pick of the week? It's a little bit more obscure.
Well, it's funny. I had those 3 picks, and I'm like, I'm going back and forth between those 3. But since you asked about it, I'd like to do a sidebar on it. Now let's talk about Death of Copra #2, baby.
Is that your number 1 pick?
Yeah, I think it's probably my number 1 pick. It's kind of a 3-way tie. There's 3 books that I really enjoyed this week, but that's definitely one of them. And since you brought it up earlier, I'd love to do my.
I only brought it up because you had it as your tentative pick of the week.
But you were also like, "What's this strange paraphernalia that you're bringing onto the Keeg show?"
I was very shocked, but yes, continue.
But it's so funny that you were like, "Oh, it's very Kirby," because Copra is very Kirby.
Is it?
But also, yes. And I'll explain why in a moment. But it's also my other favorite thing that I'm all about, which is the 1980s John Ostrander Suicide Squad. So Copra is a comic that was created by this writer and artist named Michel Fiffe. And he wrote it, drew it, lettered it, totally independently created it himself and self-published it for probably a good 2 or 3 years of the book's original existence. And it was one of those things where recognition for it got picked up by various comics journalists that I've followed him into. And part of the reason I was intrigued by it because it's essentially him doing a pastiche of the 1980s Suicide Squad, where all of the characters within it are analogs for different characters in the Suicide Squad. So if you Google Copra, you'll see you're like, this dude is Deadshot. This dude is clearly Bronze Tiger.
Literally what I'm thinking as I'm looking at him.
Yes. This one is Vixen. There's definitely clear parallels and one-to-ones. And a thing for me, as someone who loved that original run, there's certainly been Suicide Squad books that I've liked post that run, but Copra is one of the few things that I feel really captures that 1980s grit and grunge in a way that I really like. And I also think the artwork by Fiffe is just unbelievable and gorgeous. It's very Ditko influenced. It's also very Kirby influenced. And the Kirby aspect of it, the thing people don't know about is in the 80s Suicide Squad run, there was a character named Duchess. And she's this woman who has amnesia who joins the team. She's super strong. She's an ass kicker. And what you find out is she's actually Lashina, the female Fury, who has amnesia. And there's a whole arc where Granny Goodness and the other female Furies come to Earth and are like, yo, you're coming back with us. So in the pages of Copra, he's kind of been doing his homage to that storyline where you have the character who's meant to be the Lashina character meeting up with her brother, who's an analog to Orion. And in this story, there's a big breakout scene where Orion's been trapped in this like prison. She helps him get out. So it's very Kirby. It's very Suicide Squad. It's two of my favorite things mashed together. And this is meant to be, this book, Death of Copra, is, as you can tell by the title, his final arc that he's doing. After doing this book for almost, I think, 6 years, 7 years, he's been doing it for a minute now. To give you some context, like when I first bought this comic, I had to go to Desert Island Comics in Brooklyn, New York to get the books because it was very much a entirely like self-published independent book, and that's the super indie comic shop that is in Brooklyn. So Copra, I highly recommend checking it out because Image now has been republishing the trade editions of it. So if you want to see like a really unique book that still has like that superhero flavor, Copra is a great way to go.
All right, that was a good, succinct sort of, monologue about it.
Thank you.
I couldn't tell any of that by the cover. I'll tell you that.
It's a very abstract cover, yeah.
I'm looking at every single one of the covers, and at each one, I'm just like, what's happening?
Right.
What is going on?
Yeah, he likes more abstract cover work, but the interiors are a little bit more conventional, I guess you could say.
So my take on a lot of art, right, is that like if the art is meant to be consumed, it has like people need to know what they're like if they want it or not, right? Like
Sure.
So like movies that are like really weird trailers that don't say what it's about, like sure they're a little enticing and mysterious if that's the genre you're going for, but if that's not the genre you're going for, you need to like describe it, not over describe, but like tell us what this movie is about, right?
Sure.
Like the whole you can't judge a book by its cover, that's exactly how you judge a book. How else are you judging a book?
Well, I think that with Copra especially, I will say this. If you look at some of the covers of early Copra too, you see some more traditional like hero group shot kind of things that you're like, oh, okay, this character looks intriguing, or be like, hey, why does this character look like Deadshot? I'd like to know what's going on here. I'm going to pick this up and check it out. But I also think that I do agree with you, but at least for me, as someone who has been reading comics for like, Jesus, almost over 20 years now.
Yeah.
I tend to be drawn to things that have a more distinct look and flavor to them rather than something that's going to tell me what's right on the cover. You know what I mean? I think that's just because of how my tastes have evolved. True, I guess. But also, if I go to like a con or something and I see something that catches my eye, I might not know exactly what it is. But if I see something that's like, this is visually very different than what I've ever seen before, or this looks intriguing, I want to know more about this, I'm going to get pulled into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd say, to be fair for this, I bet because it's like you said, it's the final run of this storyline that he's been working on for however many years. This is most likely marketed towards the loyal readers who have been with it from the very beginning, like Brian here. And he probably is less about, oh, I'm trying to get new readers. This is the final arc. I want to satisfy my current readers, and this is for that
very true.
Kind of thing.
That's very true too.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what I would look at.
Also, just the name Copra is like an Italian independent like movie from the 50s. Like, what is Francis Ford Copra?
Yeah, that's essentially the name of their team. Instead of the Suicide Squad, they're called Copra.
I just kept thinking, like, he's saying Cobra really weird. Like he's like really intense about Cobra, right?
It's a G.I. Joe tie-in.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't help that it is an Image book, so I was like, it's definitely G.I. Joe tie-in. Like, it's definitely
there's some confused people out there, like, wait, where's Destro? What's happening?
My pick of the week was not on my list of 3 at all.
Oh,
yeah.
My pick of the week is Batman Dark Patterns #3.
Ooh.
And
I'm excited to read this.
Here's the nuance to my pick is that I often, even though I am a Batman fan, I'm a big Batman fan with an asterisk. Mostly, I like Batman with his Bat family. I like Batman with the Justice League. I like Batman with people. I don't necessarily jump for joy for every new Batman miniseries. I think it's like oversaturated. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need. It's like, this is the story of Batman on his like 12th birthday and the mystery of a murder that happened when he was a kid, and now the murderer is back in Gotham. Like, what? I don't like, it's always some sort of like untold tale of like a murder that comes back 50 years later. Anyway, this one's really good. And it's surprisingly good. I went back and read the first 2 issues after issue 2 came out. So I didn't get to talk about it on the show, I don't think. And so I went back, I read the 2 issues, then I read this one. The storyline going on, somebody pointed out how the premise of this storyline is very similar to the premise that's going on in Green Arrow right now, where it's essentially a corporation poisoned the people, because corporations do that, and now there's a murderer that's trying to exact revenge. So it's literally the same premise, but they're going about it 2 different ways, and they're both really good. Green Arrow right now and Batman Dark Patterns. The thing that's cool about this one is they kind of expand Gotham. Like they venture out into like a suburb outside of Gotham, which I thought was like interesting. We don't normally see that. But also the villain, he is grotesque. He is the way the villain is set up. I don't know if you guys have seen him.
I think I've seen an image of it.
The Wounded Man, I think is his name.
Yeah, he looks like he's made out of scabs or something.
The opposite in a way. He has put nails into his body. He's put rebar into his body where it doesn't cause him death. But if Batman literally like tries to punch him, he will kill him. So like he's like a walking Iron Maiden in a way. Like like he's put all these things into himself, and you figure out why across like the course of these ones. Basically, a company like poisoned the land, then they sold the land to the city, and the city sold the land as a suburb, and all the people essentially are impervious to pain. Like everybody on it is impervious, but it's bad because like they go through like, what does that mean? That just means like you don't pull your punches, but you also don't like smell or like you don't feel the fire burning. So like this guy's wife just like sleeps through her own burning, like she dies that way because she can't feel that. And like some of the guys have lost fingers because you just don't know, right? Like that's how we do things. And so this guy's trying to enact revenge. And you also, I think it takes place in the past, so you're dealing with one of the Psionises, not Roman, not Black Mask, but like his father maybe, because it has to do with Ace Chemical. That's the company.
Okay. Sure.
So like the vats that the Joker
that make the Joker, yeah.
So Ace Chemical is the thing. So it's a really cool, kind of gross mystery thriller. Like, I don't know. It's really captivating. Also,
who's the writer on that? Is that Dan Waters?
I don't know who the writer is because I don't know him. I've never heard of him
Hayden
before.
Sherman is drawing it, and he's someone who's really been on my radar because of Absolute Wonder Woman. So I was seeing stuff he was posting about it or they were posting about it, on social media. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, I'm excited to see this when it hits the trades because I like their art a lot.
Dan Waters.
Yeah, Dan Waters. Dan Waters is good.
The writer, and this was the end of the arc. It was just a 3-story arc.
Oh, really? Okay.
They go to a new arc in issue number 4.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's probably an ongoing as long as it keeps selling things. Also written by Dan Waters. So probably they're just going to go arc by arc and tell contained kind of stories under this dark pattern timeline, which I'm cool with if it means reducing the amount of miniseries that come out of Batman. Just have it like tell 3-issue stories. I think that's amazing. I think that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, it kind of sounds like a little bit like what Remember growing up, Legends of the Dark Knight, that book?
Yeah.
Sounds like what that book kind of was, where it was like, oh, it's like different creative teams doing like short arcs that don't have to take place in the current continuity.
Yeah. I'm cool with that. Wasn't there like
Yeah,
Batman
cool.
Urban Legend or something?
Yeah. They had that recently too. Yeah, it's a good. I mean, there's so much Batman story to tell, as you
Yeah, because
pointed out before.
you said there were only 8 DC books that came out, and 3 of them so far are Batman that we've talked about.
There were a lot of Batman related ones that came out this week out of 8. To make up,
they are Detective Comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, that was my pick of the week. I know there's a lot of other books worth talking about. Let's hop over to Absolute Batman number 5. We all read that one.
That was my second pick.
Yeah, I think that's the one we all read.
Yeah, I think so too. Wasn't
Don't
this supposed to be the end of the arc?
I mean, I guess it is an ending. You know, it kind of starts. It's an ending of the hunt of Black Mask, and it's the beginning of he's not hiding anymore, I guess.
So it's not over. It's just.
It's not. Well, the book is an ongoing book.
No, I know that.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like an Act 1, Act 2 kind of thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that it was titled like The Zoo 1 of 5, and now we're at the 5th issue, and it ends with "to be continued," and it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's not a great. I mean, I guess most things have a cliffhanger, right, to keep you going. Now you gotta get issue 6.
I mean, I was.
Did you like 1 through 5? You have to get 6.
I'm just complaining to complain. I don't. It doesn't really matter. But did anyone not like this issue?
It was a good issue. Man, I'm trying to think of what I liked the most about it. I can't. Yeah. I had something. The dialogue in it was just really good.
Yeah.
But I can't pinpoint exactly what. I think I liked the whole. The introduction of the light, the spotlight. It's a different, cool. A different origin. Who would have thought the spotlight would have a different origin? But here we are. That was cool.
Burning a stack of money shaped in the fat bat.
Very Joker-like.
The memorial skylight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He accepted the bribe, and then he just, I guess, in a way to symbolize his
incorruptible.
I don't know. Sure. He just put that in the shape of his bat. I did like that Scott Snyder was like, I know everybody hates the bat, so I'm gonna call it out and I'm say, man, that bat is ugly. That bat symbol is ugly. He's like, yeah, well, whatever. So that was cool.
Yeah,
I like that. The whole who was Gordon talking to? Is that Bruce's
That's Martha
mom?
Wayne. Yeah,
that was Martha. So Martha got arrested. Huh, interesting. When she was younger. Yeah, when she was younger, she was protesting. And,
Well, even now she's a protester. You see her in that city hall meeting or whatever, when she's constantly standing up for like the disenfranchised of Gotham, which is amazing in this.
Is she a social worker? Is that her job? So. I feel like she has a job along those lines in the Absolute universe. Yeah.
Because Thomas was a teacher. Thomas was a teacher. Martha's a social worker, as opposed to a doctor and a what's Martha?
I don't think Martha ever had a housewife. I don't think she ever had a job.
Wealthy wife she who had a good heart.
Get a job.
She maybe I feel like there's like versions where they're kind of like, oh, she runs the like philanthropic side of Wayne Enterprises, but maybe I've hallucinated that completely. I don't know.
There's a lot of
this issue. This issue really was more of an action-packed issue. What made it like so good was just the action. Feel like I think what I really liked was the spikes coming out of like usually you hear a villain say like get him off me. The villain was yelling, "Get me off of him!" Like I don't want because he got stuck. He got impaled when he tried to grapple Batman, and Batman had I guess some kind of mechanism to get some spikes to come out of his back. And not a good time for that guy.
And it's the same dude who previously got his arm chopped off. If I was looking at that,
really?
Which is so funny.
Yeah, he said payback time.
Yeah, he's got no arm and no hand, and he's got the big machete. He's like payback time. And
wait, is he missing a whole arm?
Come out. He's missing his forearm. He's got no hand. Yeah.
Oh, he didn't get to the hospital on time to reattach it. Like
I don't think so.
like Batman said.
And if he did, maybe he was just too proud. He's like, no, I'm not going to save my hand because
Yeah.
Batman allowed me. No, who knows?
Oh man,
I
so
was
funny.
looking through Wikipedia right now. Martha Wayne is heir to the Kane chemical fortune.
Yeah. Oh right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
That's not a job though.
No, it's not a job.
It's a tough
That's
job.
being a nepo baby. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. What I thought funny about that big guy though was he was like, "Please, sir." Didn't he say something like that? It was like,
He's like, "Please, sir, let me go."
Please, sir, let me
Yeah.
go. As he's like stuck on his spikes.
Yeah, as he's being like thrashed around while Batman's fighting the other dudes. Oh man, the Nick Darrington art in this book is just always so wonderful. I love his way he lays out a scene for fight sequences, especially. It's so great.
It's gruesome though.
Oh yeah.
You know. Speaking of gruesome, Batman Dark Patterns has a literal scene. It is so you could feel it, just like you can kind of feel it in Absolute Batman. Dark Patterns is doing the same thing. One of the Sionis guys, he pulls the rebar from the wounded man, and he can't feel it. He's like, and so he just bleeds out.
Oh my god!
And he just can't feel it as he's dying. And it's you see it, and it's like it'd be like in a movie, those type of scenes that make you feel so gross. It's like that, but in comic form. Amazing use of that.
That's awesome.
But Nick Dragata is this artist?
Yeah.
Yes.
His stuff is so good. I don't. Yeah. It works for this. Like, I feel like this concept was made for him.
Oh yeah, it definitely. I definitely get the sense with a lot of these Absolute books that the artists and writers are collaborating very closely with each other from like the initial conception to everything. You know, it just is a collaboration that doesn't feel like, oh, you're being brought on to like service the writer's vision. It feels like it's a very unified vision for everybody.
You know, that's something I didn't even think about until right now. It's like you would expect that they were gonna immediately bring out the Absolute Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman and put them together because hey, we have a storyline that we want to talk about. Let's just put them all in the same world immediately. And no, we're getting each story fleshed out little by little. Like they're not even talking about other heroes in their own book at the moment. So that's been very nice.
Yeah, it's a showing of restraint that I'm really impressed with.
Yes.
But it does give you the ability to be like, all right, I'm immersing myself in
this. Because it no longer, because what we've had, I would assume that we all felt this way. It's like this event fatigue. It no longer feels like an event. It feels like it's its own book. So that hopefully they keep that up for another year before they make it into an event of, oh, the Prime Universe and Absolute Universe are gonna meet.
Or even just whenever the different Absolute versions finally meet.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna make it feel that much more exciting because we've not had it for so long that when it does happen, it's like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna be honest, I love myself a crossover event, but I don't want Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman in this to meet up. I'd be okay if they never meet up. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I really don't, because I don't even. It's not like Clark and Bruce are the same people that they were in the Prime Universe.
No, not at all. God.
I don't think they would be best friends. I don't care if they meet because they're not like the same people. Also, I'm a big fan of the Justice League being characters that aren't popular enough to get their like not the Trinity. So I like Mark Waid's JLA Year One, where it's the starting JLA is not Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman. It's Aquaman, Green Lantern, Flash, Black Canary, Martian Manhunter. I like that. So I'm hoping if they do Justice League, Absolute Justice, or whatever, that they don't include these three. That's just my opinion.
All right. I'd be intrigued to see what they do.
I feel like they're gonna at least include one of them. At least one. Most likely Wonder Woman, honestly.
Probably Wonder Woman.
Because she's already working like with military right now at the moment, and she's, I think, the most well-known. But, you know, Absolute Batman's world doesn't seem to be the same world as the Absolute Superman's world at the moment. You know what I mean? And even Wonder Woman and Batman's world do seem connected. The Absolute Superman's world with all like these peacemakers and stuff, it just seems so disconnected. I'm sure it is the same world. Obviously, it's going to be the same world, but it just doesn't seem like it.
Yeah,
Especially
it's
with the
actually it's
advances
fun.
in technology that peacemakers
Yeah,
have and stuff will
it's
bring
funny you say that, Manny,
this.
because when I was reading the recent issue of Absolute Superman, I had a moment where I was like, "Oh, did I just not clock that Alfred works for the same organization as Lois Lane?" And then I was reading Absolute Batman, and I was like, "Wait, no, he doesn't work for the same organization as
Uh,
Lois Lane." Like, there's things that like seem like they should be overlapping with each other, and I'm like, "Oh, wait, no, it's not." And I don't know, maybe that's again just they want to keep them in their own little pockets
Yeah,
before they do the big shared universe stuff. But there are little things where I'm like, oh, it's actually weird that they're not crossing it over just like a little tiny bit
at
more.
least yeah, a little line there. Like if Alfred had been working for like some kind of Lazarus Corporation or something, that would
Right,
have been
right.
cool, like a little Easter egg or something. But yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't
well,
seen anything overlap yet.
the Lazarus one is like a private military company, right?
I believe that's the implication.
I
Yeah.
think
Because I
they're
think the peacemakers are meant to be like a privatized military.
like Black Forest, whatever that was called. What's that?
Was
You know
it
what I'm talking about?
Blackstone?
Blackstone?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't
Oh,
really know
okay.
the exact name.
Yeah, Blackstone, Black
Blackwater?
Flag.
Blackwater.
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 Blackwater?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure
So,
that's it.
you know,
What an evil name. Why were we ever okay with that? Anyway, I'm
well,
sorry.
because I mean, I think it's because they're branding themselves as quote unquote badass military
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just saying
yeah.
it out loud. I'm like, is Lex Luthor behind this? What is this?
I
This is
mean,
crazy.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, that's the closest we get to these type of people.
Uh,
I have a theory, not even a theory, but like an idea that, you know, like the DC Prime universe has like Superman in the center of this, like even the multiverse, right? Like
right.
Superman and Hope and everything is the building blocks of the universe is based off of these like concepts, and the building blocks of this absolute DC universe is about like struggle and
Yeah.
corruption,
Despair.
like
Yeah.
despair, and it's supposed to be dark side, right?
Right.
I think it's supposed to show us that our universe, the real universe, is Darkseid's universe in a way. Like, because our universe is not Superman's one, where
Right.
justice always prevails and, like, the Justice League has a satellite that's going to watch over the Earth. We don't have that. Our world is closer to this absolute world. But I think the point is that at the end of this, even though that the building blocks are of corruption and struggle and despair, that good can still overcome it. And I think that might
Mhm.
be the lesson that they're trying to teach with the absolute DC universe.
Well, that's
But
I think the
didn't
biggest thing I like about the Absolute books is that when they first announced this, I was like, "Ugh, is this going to be like really
yeah.
like edge lordy and tedious?" And then when I read them, I was like, "Oh my god! Like no, they are definitely more extreme in some way versions of the characters, but they still have that core ethos of hope and aspiration that you want. They're just in a universe that is a lot more challenging than the one that the mainline DC universe exists in.
I mean, like it didn't Darkseid die, right? So maybe that's
Yeah.
why Hope is starting to spring forth in this
Sure,
universe
sure.
because he's no longer there to keep it dead.
This
I guess.
universe was created because Darkseid died. This
Yeah.
universe did not exist before Darkseid, or
Right.
before
See?
Darkseid's death.
Okay.
But I also
The
think the specifics, but I think Manny is making a logical point too. Like I feel like the specifics of what Darkseid's current state is kind of unclear. I know we see him briefly, if I remember correctly, at the end of the one shot, but like
yeah,
that hasn't been followed up on
Yeah.
yet. So I think
Oh,
like
that's right. Yeah.
what exactly that state of him currently is like unclear in a lot of ways. I think there might be some merit to what you're saying there, Manny.
Things are happening.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Things
Only
are
time will
happening.
tell. But
Yeah.
I do find it inspiring that even though this universe is dark, that there's still light in it, right?
Yeah.
You know.
This feels like a transition point to talk about One World Under Dune.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh
we all
boy.
read it. Let's go over to Marvel Comics. Wait, did we all read it, or Manny didn't read it?
I
I
think
didn't
just the
read it,
two of
but
us might
I
have read
don't
it.
mind. I don't mind spoilers for this.
Okay,
Let's do it.
all right. Brian, you're our boy Kirby. Uh,
Yeah. Well, I'm also about to reveal that I'm a big Ryan North boy too, because when I opened to the character page and I saw Squirrel Girl, Nancy Whitehead, and Brain Drain, I was like, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl team is back. Let's go. I was very excited to see that. Yeah, this book's wild, man.
It
There's a
Is
lot
starts.
it
of
a
going
one
on here.
shot?
No,
Is it just a one shot,
it's
or
a
is it gonna
it's
be
a
like a?
I think it's a
it's an event / miniseries.
yeah, I
Because
Oh,
I
think it's
think
like a
there's going to be
12 issue
I think there's
series.
tie-ins. There's 12 issues of this.
I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be the whole year. I think it's 12 issues.
Is it
When I was at New
monthly
York
or
Comic
bi-weekly?
Con, no, I think it's monthly.
yeah.
Holy guacamole!
When I was at New York Comic Con, I feel like they said it was a 12 issue series, that this was going to be like a year long story.
I mean, probably comparable to like Siege, right?
Yes,
Like
yes, or
the
even
one.
like the Dark Reign stuff.
Yeah. Oh
That
yeah,
was
yeah. Dark
the
Reign leads into Siege, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such a big thing that's happening. You could definitely get a year's worth of story at least out of it. I mean, so this basically picks up, for context for the listener and for Manny, this basically picks up pretty much right where the last issue of Fantastic Four ended, where Doom has made his grand pronouncement that all countries are now considered territories of Latveria, and as Sorcerer Supreme, he is deeming himself ruler and protector of the world. Um, and in his big speech, let me find the exact part that I wanted to read here. In his big speech, he kind of pitches what the new peace under Doom, as he puts it, the Pax Victorious, will be. He says, "The second gift is this: you are all citizens of Earth, yet you all have not until now been treated with the same baseline respect that demands. You have struggled under inequality. You have been made to go without medicine, without knowledge. You've been made to pay for basic care, or you've been made to die. But there are certain privileges to being Latverian, and there is a certain minimum standard of living that Latveria bestows and insists upon for all of her citizens." And he then says, all citizens of the world will now receive free healthcare and free college education. And I'm like, I don't know, sounds pretty good to me, Dr. Doom. You're making a good pitch.
Yeah.
That was kind of the point of the first issue, right? Is that
Yeah.
like, are you going to argue with Doom if he says all these things? But I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I think is this in response to real world stuff? I don't know. But the point being is that like you're getting like Doom essentially is saying like he is anti-racism, he's anti like starvation, right? Come with like you are under my wing now. You won't ever have to worry about it as long as you bow to Doom, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Simple.
It's this double-edged sword of you're getting these great things, but it also comes under the unquestioned authority of Doctor Doom. And maybe the part of this issue that like kind of made me laugh in a dark way was when Hydra gets on the line and they're like, "Yeah, no, we don't like this. We're gonna go attack Doctor Doom," because obviously, like as a Romani, the Nazis are not gonna like Doctor Doom. And then like 5 minutes later, there's a new broadcast where it's like Baron Zemo next to Doctor Doom. Baron Zemo's like, "Actually, Doom's pretty cool. We're now going to support and help him." And the Avengers are like, "Okay, there's clearly something wrong here.
Yes.
That's not okay." So they go after Baron Zemo, and they find out the Baron Zemo he was talking to is a robot. Dr. Doom gets back on the TV. He's like, "Yeah, you know what I did? I killed Baron Zemo. He's a Nazi. Boo-hoo. Are you mad at me for killing Nazis? I'm going to kill some more of these Hydra Nazis." And then everybody's like, "Doom, Doom, Doom, Doom." And then they're just like, "Oh, crap. We might have screwed the pooch on this one."
Man, I'm still failing to see the negatives here so far. Like,
Yeah, no, exactly.
I think the Avengers, and I hope they're split on how they feel about it, because I don't think it's such a cut and dry decision. I think it's the idea that like mankind deserves free will, but
yeah.
does that then mean that you should be responsible for your own downfall in a way? Like should mankind be able to fail as long as they're failing freely? Succeeding in prison, succeeding under shackles versus failing outside of them. Like, what's the point of life is really what it is, right? Is the goal to like be safe and survive and flourish, or is the goal just to choose which way you die? Like, I don't know. It's hard in this one, right?
Yeah. And it's getting into the kind of, I think, sometimes tricky territory that writers can fall into in a superhero story where they're like, you have to kind of accept and suspend your disbelief, especially in the Marvel universe, where they try so hard to reflect the real world that, like, they can only impact the real world, the superheroes, up to a certain point. Because, like, logically speaking, with people like Reed Richards, Iron Man, the numerous other super geniuses, there should be no more diseases. There should be really no more energy crisis. Like, there's all these things that within a world where these people exist, they should have, like, handled these problems, and there should be a utopia, right? And that's kind of what this book is playing with. But it's also one of those questions where, like, it's like Wile E. Coyote. He runs off the cliff and he doesn't notice he's not on land anymore until he looks down. This is the superhero equivalent of that. When you look down, it's like the whole thing kind of falls apart. That's kind of the dangerous thing I think Ryan North is playing with here. I'm excited to see where it goes, but I am kind of like, I don't know if this can sustain the logical questions that you're asking here, Ryan. This might create more problems than you realize.
I think he brings up that point, though, in this book when he says, Doom says, all this time, like, people haven't been getting the medicine, haven't been getting food, whatever, and they've said, like, there just isn't enough for you. There has been enough, but people are hoarding, people are being greedy, and that's the problem. Not that we don't have enough resources, that the resources are being held behind a paywall, right? And so the idea that, like, Doom is like, no more paywall. Here it is, you know, freely for everybody. That being said, like, I mean, that is real life, right? That is real life.
Yeah.
But also, I think it also brings up, like, why couldn't this world have an energy, like, you know, solve all its problems? That, like, for every superhero that could change the world, there's a villain, both powered and not powered, named and unnamed, that stand in the way. I think in Ryan North's run with the wasn't there like a billionaire tech guy and then created the AI? That storyline kind of deals with like, there are just people out essentially locking away any good that could happen for their own financial gain. So Marvel Earth can only go so far.
Right. Even if there are superheroes in the Marvel universe, there are still supervillains in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Who have intentions that are just as bad as the supervillains who exist in our real world.
Right.
And it's funny you made that comment about, like, is this reflecting real world events? And I think it is, but the sad thing is this had to have been written far enough in advance before the 2024 election that also speaks to the fact that, like, we had problems before a certain someone became the new president that are still being reflected in this comic that was unclear if those problems were ever going to really change in a substantial way. And I think that's kind of what North is playing with here, is this idea of, like, we want to believe that the good guys are always going to solve the problem, but there are things that hamstring the good guys in dramatic ways. And some of those things are ethically dubious and questionable. And some of those things are, like, legitimate problems that they have to overcome because of bureaucracy and things like that. Right. It's a heck of a book.
I also think that this issue was probably written at least a couple of months ago, because the idea in this issue is that, like, the whole world is anti-Nazi. Like it'd be a ridiculous world to live in if they weren't anti-Nazi. That would be too fantasy for Marvel Earth. Marvel Earth is clearly anti-Nazi, and everyone would get behind you if you were anti-Nazi. So ipso facto,
some 2024 thinking right there.
I just had a real chilling thought of someone being like, "Whoa, when did Dr. Doom get so woke?" Like, watching him kill all these Hydra goons, and being like, "What is this? Doom's gone woke. What is this?"
Keep politics out of my comments, please.
I love that Baron Zemo literally says, "You are gonna let this world be run by a man of what did he say? He said
I'll find the exact line.
A man of a nationless people or something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah. I was like, ooh, damn. Ooh. Going right for it. Like, that's pretty hard. And it's one of those things too that, like, we don't talk enough about when we talk about the Holocaust, where there were so many people who were targets in the Holocaust, right? Not to say that one deserves more attention over the other. Obviously, people of the Jewish faith were the primary targets, and were the ones who, sadly were killed in the largest number. But there were many people who were targets at that time, and it's worth like remembering and acknowledging that as well. Yeah, he says, much less by a rootless, degenerate mongrel is the exact line that he has there. And then he gets killed, so he deserved to die. So it's all good.
So, who cares? Here's the funny thing. I feel like Marvel Comics makes more nuanced stands than the MCU does in movies. Like, the nuance involved in this, every time the MCU tries a nuanced character that's a freedom fighter / bad guy, then they suddenly are like, oh yeah, and then they like kill a baby, and like, so we can all root against them. And in this, in Marvel Comics, it's like Doom is Roma, right? Like, he is of the Romani people, and that factors into him here and why he does the things he does, and it's very nuanced, and the reason why Zemo hates him, and like the MCU doesn't. It can't tackle that. I think that's a problem with the medium of like, you can only do so much in movies, but also they're afraid. They're afraid of doing it.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think because film and MCU especially is a version of this storytelling that has a much wider audience, and comic books are still very niche.
Yeah.
They are much more afraid about pushing boundaries in terms of political messaging than the comic books are, which are going to be like, hi, I'm Dr. Doom. Here's the dinosaur version of myself. We're going to eat these Nazis now, and be very explicit about why we're eating them because of their political ideology.
Yeah. For the sake of time, we got a lot of books that we didn't get to cover, and each of these books we've covered like 15 minutes each. So we're gonna go through some of these, and then we're gonna, as it goes on, we're gonna talk less and less about the books that we do. So I know that we wanted to hit a couple of other ones. Bug Wars, I know, was on your list, Brian.
Oh, this book is a hoot. I love this book.
What is it?
So it's basically like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids meets Conan the Barbarian.
Okay.
It's like you set up that there's this family that are moving back into this home after a tragedy. I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but within the yard of this home that's kind of been abandoned for years, this massive microscopic world of like bug people and different things have sprung up. So in the opening pages, you kind of get dropped into this like Conan the Barbarian-esque fantasy world, and you see these different factions and armies that are all like related. Some of them are like spider people, and some are ant people, and some are beetle people. And then the one young boy of the family gets shrunk down to tiny size and is now about to go off on an adventure within this microscopic world. And if you were a fan of Jason Aaron and Mahmoud Asrar's Conan the Barbarian work that they did for Marvel kind of recently, you'll love this because it's very much in that vein.
Okay.
This, what you just said all reminded me, I had to look it up right now. Arthur and the Invisibles. Did you guys ever watch that movie?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's exactly the first thought that I had. It's a great movie. If you haven't watched it, Arthur and the Invisibles.
I've heard of it, and I'm trying to place what it looks like, but
came out in 2006. It's like half live action, half like, I don't want to say CGI, but yeah, CGI.
Oh, okay.
And it's the same concept. Yeah.
I will say though, even though I use Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in my comparison, it is definitely more on the Conan the Barbarian side in terms of content, in terms of violence and language. Just a heads up to everybody. Do not buy this for your children.
Okay.
Or buy it for your children. Get them ready
or buy it for your children. If you're a really cool parent, buy it for your kids.
Let's switch over to another Image Comics book, Transformers number 17. I think I'm up to date with 16. I didn't get to read this one. Both of you guys read this one, right?
Yeah. Continues to be good.
It's hitting some great topics like PTSD, like especially with who is it, Magnus? Who went in the last issue into the middle of a battle, and right before he started fighting, he said, "Oh no, I don't want to be here."
Yeah.
Just took off, ran away, and then we find him here again. And in the time from that battle to where we find him now, he builds a fortress because he just wants to be left alone, and he's just so scared of everything, whatever happened in his past. He was tortured and everything. So that was so sad to see, like this huge, intimidating being who
Yeah.
can be affected with PTSD just as much as anybody else. And speaking of PTSD, Optimus doesn't realize that he's sort of experiencing it as well. And we have that like very non-logical thought of, well, I can't mess with that right now because we're dealing with something else that's important. We don't have time for my stuff right now, so we gotta move on. And so,
and then there's all the
that's
great
hard
stuff
to see.
to that point too. There's all the great stuff with Beachcomber too, like kind of
Yeah,
taking a more pacifist route in this conflict. And this is why I love Daniel Warren Johnson, because there's all of this like really interesting like presentation of the horrors of war and how it psychologically impacts people. And then there's also a scene of two giant robots punching the shit out of each other over the skyline of Seattle. So like you get everything you
yes.
want out of
Which,
the comic book.
Speaking of that, like seeing Seattle in ruins was like crazy to see. Like I'm like, this
Yeah.
book is taking it there. Like they're not just fighting in the middle of nowhere. They are huge giant robots fighting in the middle of cities, and the repercussions of that are being seen. So that's pretty cool.
I've never really been a Transformers guy. I'm really just here for Daniel Warren Johnson. And every issue, there's a new Transformer that pops up, and I'm like, I'm probably supposed to be excited right now, but I have no idea.
That's my only negative about reading Transformers is that I don't care about Transformers.
Yeah.
And this was going to be like my introduction to it, and every time by the end of the book, I'm like, I missed at least 4 references. I don't know. I know something went over my head, but I don't know what it was.
I will say,
God, there's so many of these guys. There's just so many.
If this series ends and Daniel Warren Johnson wants to go over and do a Beast Wars comic, I would. I mean, I'm excited for this. I love, like, I just don't know as much about Transformers as Beast Wars, and I think that is the difference. That's the difference between a 90s kid and an 80s kid, is whether it was Transformers or Beast Wars. And I feel like that's the divide.
No, I agree.
Beast Wars was my introduction to Transformers. Yeah.
Same.
Because there's an episode of Beast Wars where Starscream, his spark is flying, and then it takes over, I forget, it's like Tarantulas or whoever. And I'm supposed to know as a kid who Starscream is. I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what? Okay.
Whatever. It's another villain.
Like,
that's all.
Okay. Beast Wars was what I was into. For the sake of time, we're gonna move on. I want to hit. Is Immortal Thor 20 worth talking about at all? Quick thoughts.
I still love this comic. Good as hell.
Okay. Cool.
I think we're kind of entering the final act of the story based on how this ends.
Okay.
I'm a big fan. I love it. It's so good.
Deadpool number 11. There were 3 Deadpool titles that came out this week.
Three?
Deadpool Wolverine, and Deadpool Team Up, which Rob Liefeld is causing a ruckus, saying he's never going to work with Marvel Comics ever again, and this is his last issue. And okay, don't threaten me with a good time.
I have so many conflicting feelings about that whole thing.
I think that my friend Ben, BT artist, he brought up a good point. He says, right message, wrong guy. Is, Rob Liefeld saying that creators are getting the shaft when it comes to MCU movies. Sure,
very true.
But also,
1,000,000%.
He's just getting kicked out because he's a dick too. Like, what are you gonna do?
He talks like he's saying that, but he like talks a lot of shit about modern creators on his social media, especially people who are working on characters that he once worked on, in a way that is like really condescending and rude. I'm not trying to get on my high horse here about it too much, but like he's really kind of talking out of the side of his mouth when he's making that comment about like Marvel's not supporting the creators when it comes to these movies. Yes, that's true, but also you don't do that very well either, dude. So like, I don't know.
No.
Whatever.
He's also...
we could do a whole other podcast episode.
I mean, in my opinion, and if Rob Liefeld wants to come on an interview with me and we can get down the nitty-gritty, and that's okay. Like, much respect to him as a human being, But also, I think that he's just making that point not because he wants to lift up all ships. He just wants himself to be like, he wants to be big dog. And I've never heard anything from him that is about him bringing up the community. Yeah. I think it's just him and his ego. And I'm tired of that. Like,
yeah,
you know,
I think the right message, wrong guy point really sticks to that too. Cause it's like, I agree with you, but I also think that this feels a lot more like you're mad about how you were treated and not about how everybody's been treated. Yeah.
But the image that I see when you said that, Dimitri, was the guy from Titanic that grabs a kid and he's like, "Women and children first. Let me on the boat. I have a child." He's like, "I really care about this little kid. All right, put me on the boat."
Yeah,
100%, 100%.
Yeah. So real quick, so yeah, there were 3 Deadpool titles, one of which was Rob Liefeld's final goodbye. So goodbye. Deadpool 11, written by Cody Ziegler, also in conjunction with Miles Morales' Spider-Man. That's also written by Cody Ziegler. And so now we have a crossover event back and forth between his 2 titles. A little mini crossover, a little 4-parter.
That was why I picked this up, because I read the Miles book.
Yeah.
I don't usually read Deadpool. I'm not really a fan of Deadpool.
Yeah.
But
quick thoughts though is I like Cody Ziegler's Deadpool, and I was sad that they shot Shift because I like Shift. So don't.
Oh, I love Shift. He's a beautiful
Shift.
boy.
Don't hurt
no.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's one of the things. He's fine. Yeah, he bounced back. Yeah. But that's the continued presence of Shift as a supporting character is something I really enjoy about Cody Ziegler's Miles Morales book.
Yeah. Let's move on. The Moon is Following Us, issue number 6 from Image Comics. Quick thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, just kind of back to what we were saying earlier about Daniel Warren Johnson, like another beautiful book about like parenthood and the stress and struggles of raising a child. But all of this is manifested in a scene where a woman stabs a shark and makes a shark into an axe, and then that shark head bites the heads off of a bunch of monsters. And there's a splash page of that. It's a really great book. And as a dad, there's bits in it that like really hit me in the feels. There's a splash page that Daniel Warren Johnson draws that's just the dad struggling with the car seat. And I've never felt more seen in my entire life than I did on that splash page. They sell his original art, and I'm going to see if I can buy just that page specifically of Daniel Warren Johnson art because... hang on, let me find it. It's just it's a splash page of just the dad struggling with the car seat. And he's shouting, "God damn it, why won't this thing work?"
So is that his hands bleeding? No, they're not bleeding. They might as well be.
Yeah, truly.
All right. Moving on to quick sentence reviews. All new Venom number 3. I read this one, and I think it's a testament to this series because I don't care about Venom. But I like this series, written by Al Ewing, art by Carlos Gomez. This has been interesting, and I like it.
Do we think Venom is Robbie Robertson?
It's definitely Paul. There's no denying that it's Paul.
I low-key want it to be Paul, but I would also love for it to be Robbie Robertson.
I don't think it's Robbie.
I don't think it's Robbie.
He's too old. I feel like
I just think that's the funniest one, besides Paul, obviously.
It's gonna be Paul. They're showing you the 3. It has to be these, and there's not gonna be any of them.
Paul had to have been in the court, right?
Yeah. No, I mean Venom showed up afterwards.
But that's who they narrowed it down. They're like, somebody here in this room is the person.
Yeah, and that's the whole misdirection. It's like it has to be these. Don't look over here. Don't look at Paul. It's definitely not him. It's one of these guys.
Would people like Paul more if he had the Venom suit?
No, but I would love that because people wouldn't like it, and I would laugh and laugh and laugh.
That's the only reason people would be happy about it. I don't think anyone would genuinely be happy that Paul has Venom powers. They don't like him.
I don't feel like we've talked about this enough, Dimitri. The amount of hatred Paul gets on the internet is like a level of collective psychosis that needs to be studied. Yeah. It needs to be studied. I think it's too intense for a character who's like barely done anything.
Yeah, he's barely done anything. But also people are very mad at Marvel for keeping always splitting up MJ and Peter,
Right.
and then people on behalf of Peter, like he's a real person, are mad at Paul for stealing his woman.
Well, you can't forget that Paul did kind of destroy his world. That was kind of his fault.
Dad did.
But he could have stopped it. He was the most available to stop that.
We don't have enough time. We gotta move on.
I'm just
all right.
why do you hate him?
I'm digging Amazing Spider-Man 67. I'm digging the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. I love that the X-Men are guest starring in it. That's all.
I like the storyline. I don't like this issue just because get over it, Peter, man. We've done this.
Yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah. Peter's in a major existential funk. It'll
But everything
be fine.
else, yeah, I am like
this is a weekly comic until they stop it, and then Amazing Spider-Man #1 comes out.
Also, am I supposed to feel bad for Sierra? Like, I don't care about your family. Like, you're literally about to destroy the Earth. Like, oh, your brother died. Okay.
But also, Sierra's hot, so I don't.
Is that why you feel bad for her? Like, hey, it's okay. Your brother's
I don't know.
down.
Well, I do think she's gonna turn. I think she's gonna turn hero. I think, but
yeah,
like I wouldn't be surprised. Also, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sierra turns into a hero. But that's just me. I think
she's working on his smolder face
she's
right
getting,
now.
She's getting a conscience, you know. No, yeah. I'm just waiting for the cosplay. Let's see some Sierra cosplay.
Oh my god.
You know?
That's why you were asking about the cons and stuff. Right? Who's gonna go see Sierra? Like...
That's what it is. All right, moving on. Magic #2. We got to go this real quick. We got to quick thoughts. Anything? I didn't read it.
It was a book.
Okay. Cool. Moving on. Marvel Mutts. Is this a collection of Infinity Comics that I missed? Because I don't read Infinity Comics, but it seemed like they were a collection of one-page stories. I loved it. Super cute. Barely any dialogue. Very dog-focused, and I'm a big fan of that. So I liked this.
It was a cover buy for me.
It seems like it was written a year ago. Because there are references to Hellfire Gala stuff, and like I couldn't tell.
It might be. I'm trying to remember. I think that is an Infinity comic. I read a couple of those, but I don't read that one. But I think I've seen that one in the app.
It's super cute. What can I say? I loved it. 10 out of 10. This should have been my pick of the week, but you know it wasn't because I don't know. Anyway, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu. Real quick summation on why it didn't make your #1.
I mean, it's still really good, but this one was just a confrontation with the main enemy that really hasn't been built up enough to be a contestant against Mark, right, as Moon Knight. But of course, something gets revealed that I won't spoil, but something gets revealed that's like, oh hey, yeah, he's gonna fight Mark and he's gonna kick his ass, and it's like it's just not realistic. And
all right,
it was just a nothing really happened kind of issue.
Okay. New Champions #2. I read this one. I was really only interested in the final page. I will read issue 3, but it's not catching me. And the new characters, the whole new characters that they've introduced, aren't interesting to me.
I was gonna say it has that was your 4th Deadpool book. You got Kid Deadpool in there.
Oh yeah,
I love his line.
Deadpool boy.
Deadpool boy, like his line right before he leaves. He's like, "I don't even think I'm canon," and then he just leaves. Like,
That's funny.
But no, I'm the opposite. I really find it intriguing. I think that the way that they're introducing all of these new characters is at least genuine enough to where it doesn't feel forced. But it is a lot of characters that is just a smaller version of bigger hero.
I mean, that was the gimmick. They know they're going.
Yeah.
Like, they were originally made for variant covers. And then they had the stories created later. So,
but it's good. I do like the premise, and I'm definitely gonna be reading it more.
The art is really good. I'll say that.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to care about these rando characters more, and I'm not caring about these rando characters.
I'm glad that the random characters though that they did bring on, they were just like, hey, yeah, we are random characters, and that we're actually leaving now, and some of us may stay a little bit, but the rest of us are.
I mean, the rando characters are the main characters, like the main characters in this that spun off of Spider-Woman, because they first appeared in the Spider-Woman arc.
Yeah,
I didn't care about them then. I don't really care about them now. So
they're working. They're gonna make you care. Okay, you'll see.
I'll stick with it. X-Men #11. I read this one. I feel like X-Men's picking up again, and I like it.
I'm reading a lot of the X-Men stuff in the app, so I'm liking what I'm reading, but I'm behind by a couple months.
Okay.
This one just felt like it was just a shock factor. Like they had 4 splash pages. I mean, come on, you don't need 4. Splash page 1 is enough, man.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know. But I don't think I'm an X-Men fan. You've known me for at least 2 years now, and every time I just don't have much to say about X-Men.
Uh,
I
yeah.
think I'm gonna give up.
I think
I think I'm
that's fair.
I think
You
you
gave it a
can.
shot. I can't blame you. You gave it a shot. But I would say find an X-Men series. You don't have to read all the X-Men stuff. Find an X-Men
Uncanny
series
is
that has
good.
like a good vibe that you want to continue with.
I was about to say, yeah, Uncanny X-Men has been really good.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
Dimitri, what's your favorite X-Men book right now, out of curiosity, because you haven't talked about
It changes month to month because I feel like they've
Sure.
in a not so great way. They started off not so good, but lately the ones that have been good on an issue bump down and then they bump back up. So it's kind of hard. Like Psylocke issue 3, as opposed to Psylocke issue 4. I liked Psylocke issue 3 a lot. This week's Psylocke issue 4, not as good. But 3 was really high. And then X-Men 10 was really high, and 11 dipped down a little bit, but I still, So it just depends. Magic, I can't get into. Storm's really good.
I like Storm. Storm's been good.
I like Uncanny X-Men. I do. What happened to X Factor? I don't know. Did it end?
I mean, I'm 3 months behind X Factor, so I'm not the person.
They haven't released a new issue in a long time.
I think there's more coming out because there was a tie-in for One World Under Doom.
Okay.
I like Exceptional a lot. Exceptional is one of the ones I'm reading currently.
Exceptional is good. Yeah. Really quick, Action Comics 1083. I might be the only one of us that read that.
Yes.
I like this storyline right now. It's really good. This was, if I had to redo my top 3, this would have been in my top 3. So, that's that. Deadpool Wolverine number 2, not as good as Deadpool Wolverine number 1. Number 1 was pretty good. This one, you get bone, dragon, dinosaur things, and okay, it is what it is. Green Lantern Corps issue number 1 was a good start for this new run of Green Lanterns. So this was my tentative number 1 pick, but now it's probably like my number 3 pick. So probably. It was good. It's a good start if you like these characters. Spider-Boy issue number 16 was a good but quick wrap up of this story arc with Spider-Girl. I liked it. What am I going to do? It's cute. It's a cute series.
Is she sticking around? You think she's going to stick around?
I don't think she's going to be Spider-Girl, but it doesn't say at the end. It just kind of ends. So I don't know what next issue is going to be. Sam Wilson, Captain America, issue number 2. I wanted to read that before I go see Captain America tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm wearing my cap shirt.
There you go.
But this one was interesting, but we'll see what's going on. It has blatant racism in it. So, and Josiah X pops back up.
Yeah, I saw he's coming back. That's exciting. Love that.
And it does mention events that happened in The Crew, which is a
book
from
like 10, 15
Crew? Yeah, 10, 15 years ago, Crew.
Yeah.
So, that's that. DC vs. Vampires, Darkness and Light number 1. It's 2 stories that are essentially back to back. It starts off with a Wonder Woman story and then it ends with an Alfred story. And the through line is a Guy Gardner that has been ripped in half. That's the through line that connects, ironically enough, the 2 stories. So
vertically or horizontally?
Across the waist. And he creates a construct. He creates a construct for his bottom half, but he has to stay awake forever. Otherwise his ring will shut off, right? And he'll die. So he says he recreates his body's things with his ring to make him not have to sleep. But he's loopy and weird now. So
is he a vampire doing this, or is he a human man?
No, he's a human man. Wonder Woman rips him in half. Is essentially what it is.
Jesus Christ.
And then last but not least, from Dark Horse Comics, from Mark Miller and Miller World, we got Jupiter's Legacy finale issue number 4. The next issue is the final Jupiter's Legacy book, and I think they're just going to talk to God, essentially.
Cool.
That's kind of
Hey.
how it
Remember
works.
when they made that Netflix show? That was weird.
I liked it. I wish it went on, but it wasn't the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It seemed like it was very expensive.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you guys for talking about all the books.
Thank
I think
you.
those are all the books that we read. So a lot of books. For the sake of time, I do got to end it. But before we get going, Brian, where can we find you? What you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Nah, I'm not really on the internet anymore. I'm too tired. It's too bad.
I wish you were.
It's all too bad. Maybe you go to my YouTube channel if you are an educator who wants to learn more about how to use comics. That is Captain Comic Rex on YouTube. I've got a few videos up there about some ways that I use comics in the classroom.
Sounds good. Manny, where can we find you?
Well, I'm in the same vein as Brian. I was like, it's just a lot to do, but whatever I do post every once in a while on Instagram at Manny Reads Comics, and yeah, that's pretty much it for now.
All right. Sounds good. If anyone wants to follow me personally on Instagram, you can follow me at This Is Dimithri. But for all Keeg related stuff, whether it's Comic Talk, our weekly show where we talk about comics, or the Keeg Talks or the Keeg Chats or whatever the different shows that we do under the Keeg umbrella, you can find us on social media at The Keeg Show. TikTok and Instagram are two biggest ones at The Keeg Show, but we're also on Blue Sky and Threads and all that at The Keeg Show / The Keeg Show. Pretty much all over social media, so find us there. Go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you. Help out your local comic shops. They got a lot of comics there that are just waiting to be bought and read and touched and felt and caressed in an educational and entertaining manner, you know? So, you know, do what you can. Support your local comic shops and support your local public libraries. That's also a big thing. It's an easy place to get free comics that you could literally rent. You check it out and you give it back. And those are comic books, and all your libraries have comics now. So, you know, no excuses. Other than that, a lot of cool things coming up, including our involvement, the Keeg's involvement with C2E2, which is Chicago's Comic-Con. We got a panel there that we are doing. What? And it's not just a normal panel. It's a game show that will be hosted by me. So, you know, have that to look forward to. First time I'm saying it public, so first time. So
that's fun, and that's definitely. Is that going to be online somewhere? Like, are you going to record
it?
I would love
I'll
to
film
watch
it, but I don't have time to get into it right now. And also, there are secrets. Let me have my secrets for now. All right, that'll be in April in Chicago for anyone who's going to C2E2. So, you know, a lot of cool stuff there. Thank you everybody out there for watching. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Or maybe you were watching or listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Apple, whatever. Anyway, you know, everywhere you would find your podcasts, we are on there. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, write a review. Let us know you're out there because we want to know, you know, what you guys are listening to and how you guys are liking everything. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, everybody out there. Shout out to Tessa, who was in our YouTube chat. Shout out to World at War Comics. Shout out to Ian Likes Comics that were in our YouTube chat, but not on our Twitch chat. For some reason, they chose YouTube over Twitch. So, interesting. I'll pay more attention to that. Thank you guys so much. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of February 13th, 2025. Take care, everybody. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Bye.